Hey guys, welcome back to the Bro and a Pro podcast where we hope to help you reach your full potential, whether that be inside or outside the gym. I'm your main host, Jeremy So, self-proclaimed gym bro, and this is season 2 of my 6-month hiatus. I did take a break, and as you can see, I actually me and Richard did record this just before, and then we just had to re-record it. So thank you, Richard, for joining the podcast. But we have Richard from the Physiquecode here.
Thank you for having me. And this is my third time on this podcast, so I'm very excited to be welcomed back to it. So it's always one of my favorite ones to do because we always have a good chat. It doesn't feel necessarily like a podcast. It's just kind of having a bit of banter on.
Yes, a good yarn.
A chat with a microphone in front of us.
Yes, that's the only real difference. I feel very comfortable. So I had to start off the season with Richard because I do enjoy talking to Richard. I learn a lot from him. He's very wise and he's very articulate as well. I definitely believe in his other life. He used to be a philosopher of some sort, like one of those guys, if you know what I'm saying. Maybe. Yeah. Sweet. So you just came back from a Europe trip, right?
Yeah,
you had your client Catherine competing?
Yeah, so Kat did the Spanish Amateur Olympia in Alicante. Huge show. 735 competitors for the whole show, I believe.
730, but that's great. I mean, how big are Australian shows actually?
I think about 150.
700. That's hectic.
So most of the ICN state shows in WA are about between 120 and 160, I think. I think 160 is a big show. But yeah, so a huge show over 2 days. So I went over for that one, and then I came back, and then she's just competed in the M-Pro, which was also in Alicante, which was their just a pro qualifier that they had there. And it was a great experience. Yeah. So much fun.
How did you think the judging was over there compared to
the judging? I mean, we had, when you have the head judges from the US, we had Mr. Sullivan do the Amateur Olympia, who's the head judge of all Amateur Olympias. And then lucky enough to have Tyler Mannion do the M-Pro just on the weekend, who's obviously the judge at the Olympia. So it was really cool to be able to get in front of them and get feedback and just sort of see how it's judged and see where what Kat needs to do to work on to be better. So it was really cool. It was all around. It was an awesome experience. The whole show was really good. It was really fun. Different. A lot of different things from Australia. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Loved it.
Different in what way to Australia?
There was a little bit more stage production. But obviously when you have 700 competitors, you have the ability to do that. And then just small things like I was speaking to you previously, and they don't tan people until I think Kat was scheduled to be on stage at 6 p.m. and she was getting her first can at 2:30. So just things that are just different. Tans looked amazing. Having monumental amounts of gloss. On there, I looked at and was.
You don't have to worry about it. As a coach, it puts you at ease.
Yeah,
that's the number one thing. I feel like sometimes they don't get, like, some clients may not get tanned enough, or they just don't get glazed, and you're like, when's your glaze? Like when you're doing this, but when they just do it all in one go, you're kind of like, oh, you're ready to go.
Yeah, and it was just different, right? It was like, I mean, they looked great. Everyone looked awesome under the lights, and obviously they know, with the lighting and what looks good. But yeah, like I said, it was just new experience, just different. Have different types of competitors from all over, Europe. Like the shows, they would put on the screen where people came, like what country they came from, and you have divisions where there'd be 18 people and there'd be 14 countries.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it was a really cool experience. I am really glad that I went over, and if I get the chance to go over again, I definitely will.
Yeah, I definitely would love to see a Europe show, but definitely want to see Olympia as well. I think it's like everything in one go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which is exciting. And you're heading off to Olympia as well this year?
I hope so.
Yeah.
So I haven't confirmed that I'll be going over, but if I can, I will definitely try to go, yeah.
And what was Kat's, if you don't mind me asking, what was Kat's feedback from the judges?
So on the first show, we had, she had her inner back pose, her hips were slightly off, which is an issue that she's had previously. And then in the first shows this season, I believe we had corrected perfectly. And I think, potentially the long flight and whatnot. And I think they did say that was a little bit off. But other than that, she got outstanding conditioning, outstanding posing, just to add a little bit more muscle tissue, which, I mean, when we saw, the size of the girls that were in the overall, it makes sense. And that's the look that they like. So, just one of those back to the drawing boards, continue to, eat and get stronger and get better.
That's amazing. And if you don't mind me asking, how tall is Kat in her stats?
I believe she is around, I think it varied like 4 centimeters from every show she did. Right? So like the Adelaide show, Nationals, the shows, but I think she's around 162.
Okay.
And she's usually getting on stage at about 50.8 or 51 kilos.
And this is like super shredded condition.
Very lean, yeah. Very conditioned.
So like putting on like, it's already crazy how much muscle she has here. Like, would you say that even here she's got to put on more muscle? Was that her feedback at Nationals?
Yeah, I think it is. I think she will need to put on a little bit more muscle. She's definitely putting on muscle at a very quick rate, which is awesome. But yeah, I think she does. Just looking at the standard of the lineups, especially in Europe, I think she has everything there to be a really good pro athlete. I think we just got to get a little bit more muscle tissue on, and she'll be right as rain.
Lovely. If you guys don't really know who Kat is, she does run the A&K posing here in WA. So she poses quite a few of my girls and stuff. So that's why. Just thought I'll give her a little shout out anyways.
Kat and Ainsley are amazing at what they do.
Yes. Yeah. Sweet. So we'll continue on with some other questions. So you ready for this?
Let's do it.
Okay. You already seen some of these questions? So I had to prepare.
Yeah.
Okay. So bodybuilding is a painful sport. And at the end of it, you're mentally and physically destroyed for a plastic trophy or medal. Is putting your body through this pain all really worth it?
Well, I think that depends on who you ask, right? Like, it's a hard question to answer, because I think if you look at it in the light that I'm doing all this for a plastic trophy, you would maybe make a very easy argument that it's not worth it. But I think for a lot of people, it's becomes a lifestyle for them, how they eat throughout the day, how they sleep, how they, what they do, what they train. And I think when you do that and you understand that it's about self-improvement, essentially, obviously wins and losses are going to be small sort of chapters and sort of the long, I guess, book, if you want to say it in that way. I think when you look at it in that way, it's very fulfilling. It can be a very fulfilling and rewarding way to live your life. So I think how you view it and what your goal out of it is going to be, the answer is if it's worth it or not. But I think, if you end up in that position where it's like, oh, I'm doing all of this just so that I can, win or whatever it might be, or not actually enjoying it and doing it for the wrong reasons, then I would say it's definitely not worth it. But, if you are one of those people that it's, understand that it's self-improvement and you want to see what you yourself are capable of, how much discipline you can have, how much, how far you can push yourself to be better, then, I think the risk to reward ratio is in your favor, and it can definitely be something that's well worth it. So I think it's a contextual answer there.
That was a hard one to answer. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. I was thinking about it. I was like, yeah, this is gonna be a good one. I had to give you something.
Let's just fuck with Richard.
Give him an answer that he can't give me a straight answer.
Richard and see what he can answer.
So do you think that then, with obviously an answer, obviously it's a hard. It's all over the place. It's subjective to the individual, and obviously their goals and their lifestyles and stuff like that. But wouldn't it just be better to be, let's say, not competing, being like just working on just self-improvement without having to go through the prep side of things, and just like going through a cut themselves, like a basic cut, maybe be strict, be 100% for like 12 weeks, get to a beach body kind of physique, abs pop in stuff, not like competition lean, because at the end of the day, we know you can't hold competition lean. Right?
Healthy, no.
Yeah. So wouldn't it just be better to find the drive without having to compete?
For some people.
Yeah.
I would say for me personally, I love the process of hypertrophy training. I love seeing the body change, what you can do to get the body to change. On a personal level, getting tanned up and posing on stage in front of a bunch of people, that's not for me.
Yeah.
But for I definitely understand why people like it and do it. And I think for a lot of people, like that's competition drives the best out of people. I actually saw something on Instagram. A friend of mine, Courtney, shared it the other day, and it was competition breeds excellence and comparison breeds not failure, but it was something on the lines of that. And I thought that was really cool. And it's for some people, the competition side of it is going to actually, you know, they work harder and they grind harder knowing that that's there compared to if they don't. So I would make an argument that a lot of people can get the best out of themselves by doing the competition. So again, it's, what is it? Different strokes for different folks, right? Like for me, it's, I wouldn't want to do that. I would be happier just, with the whole beach body sort of thing. But for a lot of people and they love the sport of competitive bodybuilding, like it's absolutely worth it. 100%.
Interested. That was very well answered. I'm not gonna lie. I was like gonna see. I was gonna see how he's gonna answer this because it's something that even I think about. I'm like, is it really worth it sometimes? Like even now that I'm kind of potentially in a prep for like next year, and I'm like transitioning from like, do I really want this?
Yeah.
Like, how much do I want this, and how important is it to me right now? And I think that's what I'm like going through now, like trying to figure out like, is this really something I want to do? Do I want to maybe travel more, spend time with the family and friends, and actually do more things? Or do I want to be like all in, like, back to prep? Because I've already done this like 9 times, I think. So, you kind of feel like, oh, okay, like, I've done this enough already. Like, what is this going to change my life dramatically? And if it's not, then I'm like, I know I have the discipline to do it. But just like, is it worth doing it? So I guess like,
It's very important, I think, for anybody, whether they're a seasoned competitor or a beginner, to very clearly establish your why. I think, if you're establishing your why and why you want to do it, it makes the process a lot easier. Because I think if, like we said earlier, if you're doing it for the wrong reason, it can be a very tough physical and mental process. Whereas though when your why is very clear and you understand that you're trying to improve yourself and then use the competition to drive yourself to be your best self, then that can be something that can push you forward to work even harder. So I think even with you, it's the same sort of thing.
Maybe I have to dig down and write my why down.
It's clearly, I mean, everybody should establish your why and do it. And if it's if the want and the why is there enough for you to do it, then it should be pretty straightforward for you.
Interesting.
You're experienced. You've done it many times. You've won many times.
No, I haven't won many times. I've just won a few times.
Yeah, you've won it.
Yeah, a few times. Not handful.
You got some wins under your belt.
Once upon a time, back in the day.
Yeah, a lot of people wouldn't have seen you compete nowadays, right?
Yeah, because it's so weird now. Because I think I started, my last show would have been 4 years ago before I started online coaching, kind of. And that was during when COVID was around. And I remember I prepped for a show 9 weeks out, got cancelled. That was the first show. I remember Tony was pushing it like, yes, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. You better still be prepping. And I'm like, yeah, I'm still going. 9 weeks out. Sorry, guys. It's canceled. I was like, oh, man. And that was like the best look today. But then, it got canceled. And since then, I had to focus on other areas of my life to kind of be like, okay, well, competing does take a lot of energy. It does. And I know I'm going to get brain dead. I can't function very well. Can't even hold a sentence. This podcast would be just me sitting here like, bro, I'm tired.
Yeah, we wouldn't be doing this thing.
Yeah, I'll probably have to put the halt on the podcast because I'll be like, I can't physically have the energy to do it. So that's why, like, personally now I've got so many things that I want to do that I'm like, okay, it's kind of like, okay, do I have the energy to also do all these other things I want to do? Which is, maybe I need to sit there and think about why. Thank you for giving me that feedback. See, this is why I have Richard on the podcast. He's actually answering my own questions.
Just turn it into a psychology lesson.
Yes, a psychology lesson. Sweet. Okay, so we got next question. How do you know when you're ready to compete? And when is anabolics worth considering?
Oh, damn. Those are two completely different questions.
Okay, we can start with the first one.
Yeah,
Let's start with the
first
first one.
first. Okay, so anybody that follows me on Instagram, I actually put a checklist up the other day.
Yes, I know. You do.
Yeah.
I get a lot of my ideas, questions for you because I see your checklist.
Right, okay.
I'm like, how can I give him some of these questions?
At least we know that what we're talking about then. Right?
Yes.
At least will have an understanding of an answer. Again, I think on the checklist I had, you need to clearly understand what the sport is. Like I always advise people that have to go to you have to go watch shows before you do one. Work out the division that you want to do, and make sure you have the right muscularity to do it. Because the last thing that you want to do is do a division and absolutely almost ruin yourself for them to turn around and tell you. You need far more muscle.
Yeah, far more muscle. So be realistic and don't be delusional. If your friends tell you you're massive and you should do bodybuilding, and your coach tells you you're pretty like a sports model, you got to listen to your coach.
It happens, yeah. So I think that's really important. I think one of the ones that a lot of people don't realize is just making sure that you're financially able to do it. Bodybuilding is very expensive.
Yes.
Especially if you are a female. It is far more expensive for females than males. Like those bikinis are like $800 or $700 or some astronomical amount of money. Competing is hard.
Oh, those diamantes. Yeah, I know all about them.
The tan.
And you just wear it once. It's not like you can wear it to the beach the next day.
Tan hair, makeup, coaching, posing sessions, all of those sort of things. So it's financially, it's a pretty big expense. So you don't want to get sort of halfway through it and not financially be able to continue.
Can I just quickly stop you there? I just want to go back to number one where you said go see a show first.
Yep.
I think the problem with that sometimes, is that they get too excited. They see it, they're like, I can do that. And I'm like, well, you should probably go back to what we just, the first question you said was just like, you just got to find your why. Yeah. I think finding your why is first, then going to watch a show. Because I can guarantee you watch your show and you watch the cheers, the excitement, the glitz and the glamour, you're going to be like, more than likely, even if your why isn't there, you're going to be like, yeah, let's do it. And then you get into a prep and then you don't realize how hard it is. And the next minute or not, your why isn't strong enough, as you said, isn't strong enough, or you don't have a proper why. And then you're just going to fall off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So if we were to reiterate that, I would put that as the number one.
Yes.
Definitely the number one thing. The reason that I say go to a show is because there's nowadays there's a lot that you see how it looks on social media and whatnot and those sort of things, and which is fine, and then they sort of decide, yep, I want to look like the person on stage there and I want to do that and whatnot, and they don't what it is in person sometimes is not what it is.
So their why being I'm doing it for my business. What do you think about that?
Contextual, right? Yeah, that's a hard one.
I had to throw that in there because I was like, I do see that very often, a lot of times. And, I used to think that when I started PT, I was like, if I compete, it's going to get me more clients.
Yeah.
And then I realized that wasn't the case. Like they'll be like, which show did you do? Oh, you did this show? Okay, cool.
I feel like that was maybe more effective 10 or 15 years ago when bodybuilding wasn't as mainstream as what it is now.
Yes,
I think people have there's more options for coaches now. The coaching, as much as some people disagree, the coaching is actually far better nowadays than it was. I mean, like you were around, 10, 15 years ago.
10 years ago,
right?
exactly 10, 11 years,
right? So, it is far better now than it was. So I think, we have better options and things like that to do it actually now. So I think the whole doing it for your business thing, as it's being popularized, is maybe less effective now.
Yes, I think so as well.
There's just more exposure and more people doing the bodybuilding competitions. But I do think 10 years ago that was you would get clients out of it.
Marketable.
100%.
Yeah, I do feel like I got some, but then it was comp prep. I'll be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like you're just regurgitating almost what your coach would have told you.
To be fair, Jeremy, 10 years ago, nobody knew what they were.
No one knew. I mean, we'll do keto it has its benefits, but that was bodybuilding back then.
It was. Nobody knew what they were
Remember the free meals, the cheat meals? Yeah, you have a burger before you jump on stage. And
absolutely.
now there's all this science. But I guess, as you said, I think times have changed now that people are inclined to have a coach be like, you have to know what you're doing, and I need to trust that you know what you're doing. I don't care if you've competed before, you got to now know the knowledge behind it and the reasons of that. Which I think, you're right. Like, I think a lot of people are more knowledgeable, or like they know, more aware of it, compared to like, oh, you compete doesn't mean anything unless you're like, you're a professional. Maybe then you might get like, more clients because oh, you're a pro now, so like they dream for that.
And I think the other thing with it is like, before social media was super popular, people that wanted to compete didn't have access to who the coaches were, right? Because we didn't have coaches on social media sharing all their different clients, and like the athletes tagging their coaches in posts and things like that, whereas we just didn't have access to that back then, right? So it was like, you knew the athlete, you didn't know the coach, because the coach, wasn't over like being tagged on social media. So I think there's a lot of things in that regard. But again, if you want to do it for your business, two things would be: make sure you do well. I think that's because I've had people that have said that to me in the past, and they're like, "Oh, it'll help your business, if you have the experience of competing." And I'm like, "Yeah, but if I don't do well, it's probably not going to be good for my business. So, nah." But I mean, it's one of those things that, I think we got a little bit sidetracked there. But like going to the shows, I think for me, it's like, seeing what it is in person, because there's a lot of what you see on social media, with anything in life is not necessarily exactly what it's like in person. And you might see it in person and be like, that's not actually for me, which is good. But I think on top of that, where else do we?
So you got one as why.
Yep.
Number 2 was going to a show.
Yep.
Number 3 was
finance.
You want to
make sure you're financial. A big one is make sure you have stability in your life. I think that's a huge one. Relationships, work, all those sort of things, because it will take over your life.
100%. I think that's my number one filtered question. When clients are like, I want to compete, I'll be like, have you talked to your partner and your family? Are they all right with it? Because if not, like, I'm like, it's not gonna last very long.
A lot of rocky relationships due to bodybuilding.
Yes.
Not with everybody, but again, it's just one of those things that you just have to potentially be aware of, that I think a lot of people, maybe first timers, aren't. The amount of times we've seen partners that have, bonded over going out to eat or partying or whatever it is, and then when one of the people in the relationship decides they want to do a contest prep, then immediately a lot of the things that are what they bonded over end up being taken away, and then it can cause some pretty big stress within the relationship. So I think just making sure you have stability in your work, you have stability in your relationship with family, friends, partners, whatever it is, I think is really important as well. I think there's probably more. Definitely there should be. One of the other ones is that you should be able to string training and dieting together without needing to compete. I think I don't think it's as bad now, but I think we went through a period where it was, I want to compete, but they can only be adherent to diets and training programs when the actual lead into the show is. And I think,
the show contest prep.
Right when bodybuilding first started getting, very popular through social media, I think there was a big trend of that.
100%.
I definitely think it's died down though. Well, from my experience anyway, I think that's died down. And from my experience in the last, I just took on about 10 new clients, and 7 or 8 of them were females, and they all came in saying, I just want to grow. And I was like, whoa, this is different. Because I haven't, and this is awesome. Like, so I think that trend is starting to change now, but I think that's also something that's really important, because, if you don't have stability and enjoyment in your training, and then you can't stick to a diet through an off season, I think it's going to get, it's probably more than fine to do like mini cuts or things like that. But I think when it comes to actually progressing as an athlete, you tend to see some issues post-comp with, I'm doing all this to look a certain way, and then now I can't stick to my diet anymore because I don't have a show or anything like that. And I think that can become an issue as well. So I think, having clients or just people be able to do off seasons and be able to do and stick to their food regularly. I think that's vital as a prerequisite for wanting to do a contest preparation.
That's very good. I think like I have to agree with you though, 100%. Like the last part, the piece of the puzzle, it's like always telling people, oh, you gotta reverse diet. But as you said, if you're able to string your training and nutrition together beforehand and just have that part of your lifestyle, then like transitioning into a comp prep's pretty easy, and transitioning out should be pretty straightforward. But obviously, a lot of people go into it like, even if they start a 50-week prep, they're still technically like in their mindset, they're like doing a 50-week prep. Yeah. But realistically, they should be able to be flexible to an extent, maybe until like that 30-week out mark. And they still have to put in the work. Like, I'm not saying that they don't have, but like if they want to go out to have a meal with their family or if it's a special occasion, they can't just do that. But it's just like finding that, that's very interesting. Like being able to do that beforehand.
I have a thing with my coaching that I've sort of I can't really say developed. It's just something that I sort of find more effective is, I'm really against like, how many weeks am I going to prep for?
Yeah.
Like, am I going to do a 16-week prep or a 20-week prep? I think when you start dealing with more experienced athletes, it's not the way to go, because it kind of like is like here's a switch that's on. And it's like, yes, we could start a more aggressive diet period for this amount of time, essentially. But when you're when you're 50 weeks out and you don't maybe even know what show you're going to do, you're still preparing for your show, right? So I don't like the whole, this is the start off season, 16 weeks out, then we get serious. It's like, experienced and elite bodybuilders and athletes don't look at it like that, right? Like they look at it in the way that it's like, I'm always getting better. So like the preparation, I just don't like to use time. Like it might be like, we're just in a phase right now where we're trying to grow muscle. Or it's like, when am I going to start prep? I'm like, well, we're going to start a more aggressive dieting phase here, but it's not going to change from what you've been doing. It's not some magic thing where it's like, okay, now we're in comp prep season. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, we're going to start. It's just a different phase leading into the show. And I think like not having those things separated can be really helpful for athletes, because I've seen too many times people go like, oh yeah, my prep starts in 16 weeks out, but I'm 20 weeks out right now, so I can be a little bit more like, I'll go over my calories and I don't really care as much as long as I'm ready to go by the 16 weeks. Like, for me, I'm just sort of like, meh, I want you to be 90% all the time, right? And then when we do the more aggressive dieting period, it's not going to be a great change for them. And then when they do the show, it's sort of just back to business, just a different phase, if that makes sense.
That leads me on to the next question, because I'm thinking that I just have a new question. So a new question. So obviously, being in the off season, do you have to be 100%? So you just mentioned that, 90% is good, like, but what if someone's only 80%? Like let's say like 80%, do you reckon that they will still be able to make good progress or not?
Absolutely. Yes. So here's my thing with that, right? Is nutrition labels legally only have to be within 10%.
Yeah.
Okay. So even if you track everything to the gram, odds are you're still going to be 10% off.
Yeah.
Right. So my issue with it will be of not being at 100%. You can definitely get results. We've seen that day in, day out with how many people, right? Like, and when you look at it, if you get to the show and you come second, right? And then you go, did I do everything I could have done? Did I do everything I could have possibly done to be the best I possibly can? And you haven't been 100% on the diet to like, that would eat me alive.
Yeah.
Like that would kill me. So like, do I think you need to be 100%? No. But if I don't come in at my best, or even if I do come in at my best, it would probably annoy the hell out of me that I know in my head potentially I could have been better.
So it's like the work ethic. Like it's kind of like, have I put in 100%? And if you haven't, then that's probably the reason why you may have lost.
It may be, it may not be at all, right? But it's just that mentality of like, I always tell clients like, the placings are going to be what they're going to be.
Yeah.
You can't control who comes up on stage. There's so many things that you just cannot control, and that's fine. As long as you control everything you can control, you can be proud of whatever you come.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't win, and you've been 80%,
mm-hmm.
right? Then we're going to go. That's, there's things I could have controlled and been better that I didn't.
Yeah.
And that's what would, on a personal level, like take placings out of it. Like if I wanted to be the very best and I could walk away saying I did everything I could control to be the best I possibly could,
mm-hmm.
Then I would want to be as close to 100% as possible.
100%.
But can you get results? Yes, I think you can. But at the same time, the closer you are to being 100%, just the more confident you can feel in yourself and your progression, I think, like on a personal level.
Interesting. Do you think... Okay, so I'm just thinking of more questions as we go along. So if you're 100% in your training, do you reckon that require 100% in nutrition training? Let's say, for example, and okay, we don't call it the off season, but it's kind of like the growing season. All right, it starts eating into family time, partner time, that sort of stuff. Do you think you need to pull back that 100%? To reduce stress? Let's say if work stress starts to build up a little bit and you're tired, but you're so focused on bodybuilding. Like you're like, I want to be the next IFBB pro. I have to be 100% at my training, nutrition, everything. But it starts eating into your work quality. Maybe your work starts to, you might get more tired at work, or you get stressed out at work, or you stop going out with your partner to eat because you're 100% on your nutrition. You're like, nah, we can't go out to eat because I want to be an IFBB pro. What would you do in that case? Would you pull back as a coach to a client that wants to be an IFBB pro, would you let them be like, you need to focus on other areas of your life?
Yeah, I think education becomes very important in that scenario, because I solemnly believe that you can do everything as good as you possibly can and still have those meals with family and still go out and be social. And we've seen it. The best in the world do it all the time.
Oh, 100%. I see C-Bum take time off. I think after his show, I think he takes like a month, 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off, no training.
Any of the pro sports players that I deal with, they all do it as well. But yeah, I think, it's one of those things where you just have to work out, again, your whys, what you want to get to. And what makes you happy. Yeah. And then just roll with it. And it's, if you're prioritizing, you have to be realistic here and be like, okay, I want to be an IFBB pro. It's fucking expensive. Okay?
And you get paid nothing.
If I don't work well, that's going to be the worst case scenario for me trying to be a pro. So I'm going to need to find the balancing act that will, get my life in a way that will create the best environment for me to have that opportunity that I can. Yeah. So I think it's like, it's never, you can't do everything 100%, but you have to, again, you find balance to work out, what's going to allow you to be the best athlete possible. And I think that's what, and for everyone, that's going to look a little bit different. Somebody with kids will probably have to work out a different structure than somebody that, lives solemnly by themselves and works online and lives and breathes bodybuilding. Their life is going to look, their ability, what they can do is going to look completely different to,
the person
a mom
working,
or dad with kids that has a different job and things like that. So
different priorities as well.
You can give 100%. 100% doesn't necessarily mean everything's perfect. It means everything's perfect that you can control and do. So I think
that's a good answer.
Yeah. So I think we have to look at it that way as well, right? So
because I think some people get too caught up in the idea like I have to be 100%, and I'm like 100% in what you can do is probably going to be better for you, because you have to see your values. Like, is family important to you? Then you need to make sure that you look after your family as well. I think, a true pro athlete is able to balance all of these and still get the progress they need. Yeah. And they're not 100%, they are 100% in what they can do, right? And I think some people get too caught up that they have to sacrifice everything for bodybuilding. Yeah.
And a lot of the time, that's not going to work. Yeah. Right? Because you need bodybuilding is not necessarily an individual sport. Like, you're on stage by yourself, but you need people in your life that help you.
100%.
So I think, you know, and this is the big thing with people is like, I don't think 100%, like, you can't, 100% is just doing the best of what you can.
Yeah.
So 100% is going to look different for a lot of people. Like, I always tell people this, right? Like, if you go to the gym and you're on 4 hours of sleep, or, you know, you've had a horrible work day, your best may not look as good as if you slept 9 hours and had the day off. Right, your best on that day is going to look better than the best on the day before, and I think that's what's important. You know, being able to, again, like you said, being able to balance and manage and you know, give the right amounts to everything to allow you to be the best athlete that you can be.
Love that. Great answer. Sorry, just sprung that on you, and then it brings me on to the next one because it just the you know, juices are flowing.
Juices are flowing? Okay.
If you had a choice, all right, so. 2 scenarios. One scenario is you only can be 75% with your nutrition for build. So let's say in the aspect that your goal is to build muscle and you're in the growing season, you can be 75% nutrition and 100% training, or would you rather be 100% nutrition and 75% training?
And we're trying to grow?
Yes.
75% nutrition, 100% training.
Yep.
For sure.
And then for losing body fat?
Other way around.
Yeah. Still 100% in both. In what you can control.
Ideally,
Yeah.
But you have, like, I think surplus phases, a lot of people focus so much on nutrition in surplus phases that
so many times.
Yeah, and it's like you can have the right rates of gain, but if you don't train well, you're just going to be gaining fat at a slower level. Like, you have to be able to train well, and you have to be able to know how to train close to failure, because that's a skill in itself. You have to know how to be able to do it consistently, which is also another skill in itself. And if you're not, even if you're training, if your nutrition's at 100%, you're not going to get the outcome that you want to get out of it. So if I'm taking 75% nutrition, in my head, I might be eating maybe not the most nutritious food, and I'm eating more calories than I probably should be. But at least I know that I am acquiring the stimulus to grow muscle. So the other way around could lead to gains in weight, but not enough stimulus to actually grow muscle over a consistent period of time.
Which is the most important part about building muscle. You got to get that consistent stimulus.
So I think, that's, and to me, like, there's been a big shift where it was like, it used to be kind of like bro lifting, where it was like, just, like, fuck yeah, let's just go out and absolutely kill it and yada yada. That, to me, like, doing that with maybe not so good nutrition and doing like a dirty bulk, you'll have to diet off more fat, and it's by no means the best way to go. But
dirty bulks are like just dirty.
But you are still in a surplus and training close to failure and ticking boxes. So I think, you're just gonna have to, it's just less efficient. But it still works, right? But if you're calculating nutrition perfectly and spending so much time, like, mentally exhausting yourself on making sure the calories are exactly where they need to be, and the training's not where it needs to be, you're not going to get the outcome that you want to get. Like, you may gain a little bit of weight, but you're not going to gain any muscle. And then when you go to your diet phase, you'll probably lose a little bit of muscle while dieting, and you'll actually end up with less muscle than you did previously, which I think is quite common. So yeah, I'm 100% taking the 75% nutrition.
Love that.
And 100% training.
Great answer.
Training is being undervalued, I believe. Like, training performance is being undervalued so much nowadays.
Do you think, like, why is that? What are you seeing that's making you feel this way?
I just think that there's still a lot of...
I think, like, with training, for me personally, is that there's so many, it's like a pie chart. for me. Like I call it the pie chart of training, and it's like you got different parts of like hitting range of motion, hitting intensity level, choosing the right mind, you get into mind muscle connection, hitting the right weight, that sort of stuff. And it's like, you know, hitting stability as well. Like, are you stabilizing perfectly? And it's like this perfect blend of this circle. If you go too much in weight, then obviously you sacrifice other areas, and it's like a balancing act that clients, like, it's hard to teach someone that when they just have to keep going into the gym and trying to learn that. Like, they have to be aware of these things and be able to execute it in all areas and really optimize their training in to an extent.
Yeah. So
Like,
so
yeah.
essentially, like what you're saying there is, training is, it's overcomplicated, I guess. Like,
Like,
yeah, like
if you look at it that way,
yeah, like,
if I put it that
yeah,
way,
like
it's like
if you
oh
look
shit.
at it and it's like, fuck, I have to tick all these boxes, or else it's not going to working. But I think like average exercises performed at great intensities are going to yield better results than the perfect exercise that you're unable. And like, again, that's coming back to what you're saying there, where it's like, it has to be the perfect range of motion. It has to be, if it's not stable, oh, there's no point doing it. And like, you always end up in, you know, overthinking so much stuff that the intensity is not there, which at the end of the day is going to be the number one thing.
Okay.
So for me, I think that might actually, you know, coming back to what you said before of why do you think that is? I think that might actually be one of the things. Like, you
it's because people post about it. They talk about like, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that, but then they're just forgetting the one thing, which is pushing
like,
heavy.
You need to train hard, right?
Yes.
Like, there's a reason that like powerlifters are fucking big.
Yes,
right?
but they learn the basics very, very well.
Yeah.
So I think that's where, you know, because like for them, it's like they do like, obviously I've never done, you know, the powerlifters would do like 1 rep maxes, and they would like practice once for like, you know, 6 sets of just doing 1 rep.
Yeah.
And they practice everything: stability, core strength, you know, breathing, you know, hand positioning.
They know how to lift weight.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like a practice skill because they are aware of what they need to be prepared to do. But yeah, for anyone, I think just hitting intensity is just super important.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I think it's just a learning lesson. I think you just need to go in there and just enjoy it. Like, go in there and just learn. Like, you know, that's a great time.
The more you enjoy it, the harder you're going to push.
100%.
But I think that might be like, I think you nailed something right there, right? So with the powerlifters is, and I think one of the reasons you see powerlifters transition to bodybuilding and do quite well a lot of the time is because they're taught how to train on performance. Whereas there's a lot of bodybuilders that are not taught, but they just tend to lean more towards, if I can feel this movement, it's a better movement. And whereas a lot of strength athletes, not just powerlifters, but just strength athletes in general, they're so driven into number-based training.
Yeah.
You know, I need to progressively overload. That's how I become a better athlete for powerlifting or any strength sports. And when you can take that mentality and then apply all the hypertrophy principles, that's what's going to make, that's what's going to have you training and growing muscle the best. Whereas I think, you know, we still have that position where it's like, this exercise is great because you're feeling like a crazy pump. And it's like, I mean, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a bad thing. However, have that, but also everything that you do should be number based. Right? You know, if the exercise feels good and you can go heavier and heavier, it's a good exercise.
Keep going.
Once it's a good exercise, it's all about more reps, more weight. And if you do that long enough over time and stop worrying about the other stuff, you're gonna grow muscle. And I think that's something that is maybe not quite as used at times. People like more how it feels than the actual progressions on the bar. And one thing I will say is like, learning how to progress over time is 100% a skill. Yeah. There's so many people that like go for the heroic effort, and it's like, yeah, I can do 12 reps of this, and it's like the form's borderline about to break. But then what ends up happening is like they try to progress it, and then form gets shitter. And the only way they can progress that is by having even shitter form, right? And then injury happens, or we can only progress an exercise for 3 or 4 weeks before we have to completely change it. So understanding like, okay, 1 or 2 reps left in the tank this week is not a bad thing because I want to be maxing this stuff out in 7 or 8 weeks. Yeah. Right? Like, I'm okay with a progression every 3 weeks. Yeah. You know, it doesn't have to be, you know, well, I did 8 reps, now I have to do 9, and then form goes, you know what I mean? Like, so I think, you know, it's a skill to learn how to do that.
Like, because when you get super experienced, like me trying to improve my bench, man, I'm stuck at a weight for weeks, months. Like, I'm not going to all of a sudden be like, boom, 20 kilos on the bar and like doing it for the same amount of reps. It's pretty much impossible. As you, like, obviously, as you get more experience, your runway to actually improve is so much more harder and so much more like longer.
And when you're new, you're still learning the skill of the exercise. So like you'll increase weight solely, not on strength, but just solely on motor unit patterns. Like you just get better at like you get better at moving the exercise. Right? Like kids can walk faster when they learn how to walk properly, right? So same sort of thing. So like, you know, I always sort of tell more experienced clients, like, I haven't progressed my bench press in 2 weeks. And it's like, was it feeling easier? Well, I'm getting more confident with it. Okay, let's do this for a couple more weeks. Make it feel easy and then increase it. Like, don't force it, because I'd rather you do that than potentially injure yourself. And then in 6 weeks' time, be 5 kilos up, rather than in 2 weeks' time, be 5 kilos up, but then you have to change exercises.
No, but they'll come back to you and be like, no, I'm bored. I need to change the exercise.
Well,
too bad.
That's where education comes in.
Yes, even if you educate them, but then sometimes it always feels like, because when you get paid for coaching, you kind of feel like, oh, I have to change something just to make them feel like, okay, keep them motivated, keep them excited. And I guess motivation is part of it as well. If it keeps them motivated, then all right, we'll change this up to a variation of the movement. Maybe it's a pause bench press.
I have this thing, right, where like people say, it's like, it's not my job to motivate you as a coach. And it's like, it fucking is. That's like your number one job.
Yes.
That is what accountability is, right?
Yes.
That's absolutely your fucking job. Like, anyone that says it's not is like, that's a interesting one to me. But yeah, I think education comes in part of that. And that's where coaching is not just numbers. And this is where good coaches are able to come in. And I have this thing with, especially with experienced athletes, because like, I think we went through this last time, the difference between the developmental and, and so like, especially with performance-based athletes that are quite experienced, it's not necessarily about teaching them how to train. It's about working out how to get the most out of them. Yeah. And sometimes for that, it's about, you know, education and being like, hey, look, I want you to stay on this weight for 2 or 3 weeks until it feels easy, and then we're going to go up. I don't want you to feel like a failure because you're not progressing it, because you're not. The goal of this is to do the exact same thing, but make it feel more comfortable, and just get experience with that weight for those reps. And then once you do, we'll be able to overload it. You know, and it's just like that education point of view where it's like, okay, so now you've changed our mindset towards not progressing. So I think you have that side of it. It's like an education side of it. And that's, again, that's motivating. You know, that's accountability. That's helping get the most out of them, which is what you need to do. I don't need to go in and teach a performance athlete how to bench press, because they're fucking good at it.
So, you don't have to worry about that. Yeah.
So, you know, they just need to, you know, mentally look at it in a way that's going to help them get the most out of themselves, you know, and show and like explain to them the path forward. You know, it's not going to be, we'll just keep fucking pushing harder. Like, you can't say that to them. Or you could say to them, hey, look, give it 2 weeks, let it feel easier, and then we'll go up from there. And if the progressions are only coming every 2 to 3 weeks, that's not a bad thing, because it's still progressive overload over time. Right?
So 100%.
That's 2 ways you could talk to a performance-based athlete and you know, get them get the best out of them.
Yes.
So I think that's really important.
It's art of coaching.
Yeah.
This is the art of coaching.
80% of coaching.
Yes, 80%.
Yeah.
Sweet. I'll go on to, we got two listener questions.
2 listener questions.
Yeah, we might as well go with that. So you did see those. I
have seen those ones, yes. Yes.
Is there enough testing done in the natty bodybuilding community on comp day?
On comp day?
Yes.
Yes, there is, because they test the winners.
That's the most important win?
Yep.
That's exactly it.
Absolutely. So they're the ones that matter the most, because they're changing placings.
Yeah.
Do I think there's enough testing in natural fit? That's such a big question, right? Like, in a perfect, like, it's very easy to look at it in tunnel vision and be like, everybody should be tested. It's a natural federation. That's the only way it's going to be an even playing field. And it's like, well, yes, but it's like $400 or something for an actual test. So are the federations going to pay that?
Yes.
We have 130 athletes, right? Like, okay, if you want to do natural bodybuilding, but you want to test everyone, there might not be a show.
Mm-hmm. Or
they have to take the cost themselves, right? And anybody that loves natural bodybuilding wants to promote natural bodybuilding to be bigger.
Yeah.
So making the cost of it so expensive that they potentially can't afford to compete is probably not a good thing either, is it?
Mm-hmm.
So, because I mean, you can't tell. I mean, how much it's crazy expensive just to enter it anyway for a lot of people, right?
I mean, after we discussed like all the other costs of like, for females, the hair, makeup, posing,
they're
like
spending
this.
thousands and thousands.
I mean,
of
the
dollars.
bikinis, it's like you said, like $800 in itself.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want to add an extra $400 just to get some testing done, natural testing? And then what's worse is a lot of them will, like majority, I would assume that 99% of them are going to be natural anyways. Yeah. And they're like, why am I getting tested? I'm natural.
Yeah. We have that side of things, right?
Yeah.
So like in a perfect world, we would test everyone.
Yes.
But we don't live in a perfect world. So again, right? Like, do they do enough just testing the winners? It's frustrating that there are times where somebody takes drugs and wins, and then it takes the moment away for the second place. I 100% agree that. Yep, absolutely. If we test the winners, we can't avoid that, but at least we can give some, I guess, like, give them their moment by letting them come back up on stage the next show, or rightly give them their medals for seconds and thirds and things like that. Not ideal. I don't disagree with that.
That actually happened to Jazzy just in the last show. Yeah, I did see the ICN in Bali.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
So it happens. But it's one of those things.
How did she respond after that? So when she jumped back on stage, was she kind of like, I just got my medal.
She's okay.
Yeah. It wasn't a special moment because you just get your medal. And then it's not when you're actually like in comp prep and you're like so tired and you're like, I want that win.
Yeah. I mean,
it does kind of suck.
Yeah, it does. But at the same time, you also have to look at it and say, appreciate the effort that they went to celebrate that person.
Yeah, 100%.
For actually coming second. So you have to appreciate that.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the best of a bad situation.
I think that's a great answer. I mean, like, unless the competitors want to take the extra cost, it's going to be a very arm and leg. But then not only that, like, if they're testing the winners, I think that's way more than enough. Let's be real. Like, if a winner wins and they're natty, and let's say the second or third place isn't, they lost against the natty. So if you're using stuff and you lose, back to the job.
You internally know that you suck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As much as we want to break it to you, person, we both think you suck.
Internally,
exactly.
That's enough, right?
That's enough to be like, I mean, like, unless they're delusional to the extent that thinking that, like, oh no, I'm 100% natty, and you're like, well, you're not.
So like, again, I mean, the way it works generally is they'll test the winners.
Yeah.
And then if somebody is ratted out.
Okay, yeah.
So if somebody is suspected of taking drugs or has previously taken drugs, they will be randomly tested, which I think is a great thing. And here's the funny part about all this that I get a little bit annoyed with is, like, all the time you hear people and they're like, well, such and such is taking drugs and they're doing the natty show. And it's like, okay, right now you're just being part of the problem and trying to cause drama. Like, if you're legit about this, go tell the federation and 100%. They will go test them.
Exactly.
Right? If you have physical proof that they are taking drugs, they just won't let them enter.
Yes.
So if you're just going to run around and talk shit about people not being natural, like,
or just create some figment,
part of the fucking problem,
figment of your imagination. This guy has used stuff, or he is using stuff. Look how big he is, and I'm like, that doesn't give me.
You're part of the problem, right? So if you legitimately know that, do something about. Oh no, that's what. And it's like, well, okay, well, you're just causing drama for the sake of causing drama. But I mean, like, I think the level of people that use performance-enhancing drugs in natural federations is actually not large. I don't think it's a very large number.
Yeah, no. I do believe there's 1%.
Yeah.
At least 1%. Out of 98%, I think 2% there might be just a few out there who think they can get away with it.
And or to like, be honest, man, like, the people that do it, who do you think, what division do you think tests
that
fails their testing the most?
from what I see, is the female divisions.
Yeah, but what divisions?
I would assume the figure.
Yeah,
Is that figure?
generally not. I mean, I think YNF failed a figure girl a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah, I did see that. I thought it was like 2. Oh,
Was
no.
it 2? Okay, yeah, I mean, a lot of bikini girls get done. Now, the thing is, right, the majority...
Wait, sorry, what? Bikini girls?
The thing is, right,
in the natty shows.
Yeah, but people don't get done for testosterone. They don't get done for those sort of things, like Anavar and those sort of things, right? It's usually the people that are like 8 weeks out that realize that they are not going to make it to the stage. So then they try to use like clenbuterol or something, some sort of fat burner of some nature, and then don't realize that it's not a wonder drug. And they generally don't place anyway.
So they don't have to worry about them.
Yeah. So like, and it's like, very rarely does a winner test positive for drugs. Very rarely,
it's very rare. I just know it's happened in YNF only. ICN hasn't really
it has happened in
since...
ICN, but I can't remember happening.
Yeah, it was very long time. Yeah, besides the Bali one, that was the only one that it was some Indonesian girl. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was. And it was for a Austrian SARM. But yeah, I mean it's. Yeah, I think that the drug testing's fine. Like I
think it's more than enough.
I think they do a really good job. I think ICN does a fantastic job with it.
Yes, 100%.
Give ICN credit there. They do it, and YNF obviously has done a fantastic job.
Caught some people out.
100%. So
they think they can get away with it. I'm like, you can't.
Yeah, so I'm more than happy with that, and I think it's a small enough community that if somebody's doing drugs,
I was just thinking, imagine like, okay, so you're competing, right, and you're like, obviously use some stuff, and you're like, shit, I just won. They're gonna test me. Do you just embrace and be like, yeah, I did it, guys? Take the credit and then know deep down that, oh shit, I'm going to get caught?
What would you do?
I would do
if you entered out, what would you do?
Man, I think I'll just milk it as much as I can until I get caught. But that's unreal. I would never ever consider that, and I'll never let my clients compete that are using stuff.
That's why we can joke about it.
Yeah, it's unreal.
I'm gonna take all the glory I can. I'm gonna be public enemy.
Like, and just like when they ask you, like, oh, so we found some, like, so. It's like, what do you even say? Oh no, I didn't even know it was my supplement. What supplement are you taking?
But the drug testing's good enough that they'll know what it is, right?
Okay, like, yes, 100%.
In my pre-workout, it was Ostarine. It wasn't in your.
That's right? Not in your pre-workout.
So I mean,
unless it was potentially a coach's, like potentially a coach might have prescribed it. They actually didn't know what it was. They said it was a cutting thing. Maybe they didn't do a research. I think in that sense, I feel a bit more sadder for them, because I think in that case, if they actually didn't know and the coach did that to them, then which is possible.
I'm sure that's happened before.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. But I think overall, I think the drug testing's actually quite good. And I think you just, like, people need to stop looking at it with such tunnel vision and start looking at it with...
Just appreciate it.
Yeah. And just
these guys are freaks. Like, I'm talking like, even the bodybuilders, like over East, when they compete, like, I'm like, these guys are like mass monsters. Like, they're very impressive bodybuilders for natural competitors, and like no doubt most of them at the top are probably going to move up to IBB at some point if their goal is that, and they're going to be unreal bodybuilders. Like, they already have the work ethic and stuff.
Absolutely. I think it's fine. I don't see an issue with it. And I think just to like finish off the whole ICN drug talk thing, like if you're one of those people that's like, oh yeah, such and such takes drugs, it's not a natural fair playing field, anyone that thinks it does is crazy. If you say that and you don't tell the federation and say, hey, have this person randomly drug tested, then you are part of the fucking problem. Like, you're just starting drama for no fucking reason, right? Like, if you actually want to see natural bodybuilding excel, which you should if you're a fan of, or you like bodybuilding, and you think someone is on drugs, tell the federation. They'll drug test them for sure. So...
but it's just like sometimes some people just like almost set, they'll see some people and be like, these people are insane. They must be using stuff.
Yeah, they're idiots. They're idiots.
Yeah, they're so
idiots.
Straight out. That's a short answer for you guys.
Idiots.
Just like honestly, work on yourselves. Because at the end of the day, like, if you are looking to compete and you're just judging these people based on how big they are compared to yourself, then you probably just need more muscle, honestly. Sweet. And then the next question we have, so the final question we have, your thoughts
Yes.
on natural versus enhanced bodybuilding? Obviously, I know there's a lot of answers to this, but
Oh man. Okay. Do we want the? Nah, we won't use the. We'll use my actual answer.
oh no, I want to hear the
I know
real
you
one.
do.
Yeah,
Fuck, I know you do. Okay. All right. They're very different. They're the same, but they're different, right? It's like running a marathon versus sprinting kind of thing, right? And I say that in the way that if somebody is like, you can get people in ICN that go, look, oh, they've got amazing shape, but they need another 7 or 8 kilos of muscle on them. In ICN, you're looking at a decade of bodybuilding. IFBB, you're looking at 2 years. So I think there are large differences, and it depends on,
that. Okay, so that's considering that you have relatively good genetics, already good work ethic. So 2 years is being someone that's already super good, like to an extent. Because so if someone's obviously like maybe potentially like a sports model ICN size going to like men's physique, it's like a way different weight cap. Like,
did you just say a sports model going to men's physique?
Yes, like almost in an IFBB.
I don't think they allow that yet.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, it's a very long time. Like, it is a long journey that you're going to be on. Yeah. I'm kidding. Like, as in muscularity, like I'm saying the muscle size compared to.
It takes a long time, right?
Yes.
So you can I'm a fan of both.
Yes.
I think in enhanced, you can see greater changes in a shorter period of time.
Yeah.
Which I think for anyone is very exciting to watch. You can obviously see at the Olympia level, like freaks. And if you have issues in muscularity and balance, you can make changes relatively quicker.
Yeah.
And I think in natural bodybuilding, you have to rely a lot more on genetics. You can still do the exact same amount of changing, but it's going to be a longer period of time, like a far longer period of time. So I have the utmost amount of respect for natural athletes because, they accept the fact that it's going to take a longer time, and they I look at like Brandon Kempter, who's going to be a lifetime natural, and all the hard work, those sort of guys, and it's
amazing.
It's incredible, right? So they're just different. Like, I don't if I'm to watch them, I probably prefer watching the non-tested, but that's I like, as I said earlier, I'm a huge fan of muscle.
Yeah.
Right. And I think even the smaller divisions in Pro League are a lot more muscular.
Men's physique.
Like they're huge. Even like bikini.
Yeah.
Like you can't just turn up and have a nice physique and do well.
Yeah.
Right. Like you have to. It takes a long time of training, plus good genetics, plus good all those sort of things. Right. So I think for me personally, I would, if I had to only watch one or the other, I would probably prefer watching the non-tested from an entertainment side of things. However, that doesn't mean by any stretch of the means that I don't enjoy watching the tested federations. Like I still love those as well. They're just very different, right? Like it's the way, everything, the training and all that sort of stuff is the same. But again, it's just going to be different shapes, different, levels of muscularity and those sort of things. So I think, I 100% like respect tested federations, lifetime natural athletes competing. And, because they have to be a lot more about the journey because it takes such a fucking long period of time to, so like when you look at somebody of Brandon Kempter's stature, and you're just like, that's incredible.
That is honestly, he is an amazing physique.
Yeah. Amazing guy, so passionate, amazing physique. And so I guess like I'm a fan of like looking at freaks from an entertainment point of view.
Yes.
Right? But I also doesn't mean by any means that I don't enjoy natural bodybuilding.
Yeah, the freaks of natural bodybuilding.
Yeah,
like it's impressive in itself. I think you almost find this respect for, because you're like, shit, these guys are insane. Like you can doubt, like, shit, is this guy? Are you sure he's not using anything? Like he's 100% natty.
I feel like every ICN show I go to nowadays, I look at either the junior lineups in men's physique or bodybuilding, and I look at them and I'm like, these people didn't fucking exist when I was that age.
Yes.
Like, if I go back and look at who won men's physique 10 years ago compared to who's winning men's physique and ICN now, incredible.
Yes,
like,
it's
not even ballpark. Like our 10 years ago, the national winners wouldn't scratch the surface in a novice lineup nowadays, right? So that in itself is amazing.
Yes.
But yeah, so I like them both. I just, you know, my thoughts on the different one, they're just, you have to watch it with a different eye, I guess. You know, like I sort of said with bikini is, you know, an ICN bikini, it's a lot more about structure than muscle. Just because, you know, they have the other division, sports model and fitness, and those ones which are a little bit more muscular. So you can't reward IFBB sized bikini girls because they have muscle that would be considered sports model and fitness. So again, you just have to watch it through a different eyesight, I think. And just, you know, appreciate it for what it is. But, you know, for me, I'm always at the core of it. I'm just going to be a fan of muscle in general. So
just enjoy bodybuilding. Just enjoy sports in general. You're a man of sports.
Yeah, for sure.
Sweet. Okay, so we got to finish off. All right. So we've been going on for an hour and 5 minutes.
That's short for us, to be honest.
That is short, honestly. I wanted to keep going.
Like 2.5 hours. Yeah.
Was it 2.5 hours or so?
Last one was crazy. Yeah.
It was like 2 hours, like an hour and 40, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
So I want to give three top tips.
Okay.
So we can either do athletes or everyday gym goers. Well, let's just say your top 3 tips for everyday gym goers and potentially athletes on their health and fitness journey. What are your top 3 tips?
Top 3?
Yeah.
Understand the basic principles of training. So, like progressive overload, making sure that you're eating adequate protein and calories. And then don't overcomplicate it from there. Just take the basic fundamental principles of training and then make it fit within your life. I think that's the key to it. I think a lot of people struggle because they try to do everything 100% and it just doesn't sustainably sit with their lifestyle. So I think if you can just, you know, take a little bit of time to educate yourself on the fundamental basics, and then make those basics and fundamentals work within your lifestyle to the best of your ability. You don't have to be 100%. But as long as you're, like, I'm a man of phrases. But, you know, it's like, don't worry about them being the best, but just try to make them better. Right? So what is it? Be the best at getting better.
To be the best at getting better. Yeah.
So, like, you know, if you're at 40% when you first start, you know, go to 50 sustainably. And if you can do that and it gets comfortable and it works with your lifestyle, go to 60. Don't come out the gate at 100%. I think it will work for short periods of time, but I think the ones that stay, you know, for general gym goers, the ones that have the biggest changes, the ones that can string okay training together for long periods of time, not perfect training. So that would be my number 1 tip for people, would be just make sure that, you know, you can get a little bit better. Don't worry about perfect. Just try to practice getting a little bit better here and there.
Lovely.
That's kind of like 3 in 1 though.
Yeah, that was like kind of 3 in 1. I was like, that was like really super good. So like, let's just call it the one best advice that you can give. Okay. Yeah, we'll take that back. But yeah, that was amazing, man. Thank you again for this amazing podcast. I'm sure we're going to do another one very soon anyways. So. By the end of the season, maybe before competition starts. I know comp season's coming around, so you have some clients competing as well. Season B, so it's going to be a stacked season. Fun season, enjoyable for all of us. But Richard, where can the listeners find you?
So you can find, my primary Instagram account is Richard_Physiquecode. Essentially, that's just not necessarily for business. It's just where I vent. And I post every day. And
he posted some really good content.
I just generally vent on that. So if you are interested in my thoughts on health, fitness, coaching, and performance, then you can go check that out. And our work account, so the gym that we have is at Physiquecode.
Yes.
So,
and you have a podcast as well. Did you want to give that a plug?
Yeah, sure. So it's kind of like one of those ones where I do like 8 or 10 episodes, and then I just kind of don't do anything forever.
Yeah.
It's on Spotify. It's called the Physique Decoded.
Yeah.
I always try to get some cool guests on, and it's not necessarily just
You get some world-class coaches.
Yeah, it's not necessarily just about bodybuilding. It's about sport performance, is what I like to say. So there's episodes on there about bodybuilding. There's episodes on there about mental performance. We've got sort of Olympic athletes on there, and there's just a bunch of different stuff that's not, things that you can take away from other sports and apply to yourself as an athlete. So that's generally the gist of the podcast.
Love that. So if you guys, we'll make sure to tag him into our posts and stuff like that. So make sure to give him a follow. And once again, obviously, if you had any more questions about this podcast, I'm sure he's happy to answer them. I'm sure his DMs are always packed.
Slide into those DMs.
Slide into those DMs, those juicy topics, and asking whatever you want.
Yes.
Even talking about today's topics, which was kind of juicy.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yes.
I enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming onto the podcast. If you guys enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your friends and family. This is Jeremy So signing out.